Major impact.
Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Palm Trees and Spotlight. Oh, sorry. But it's for creatives by creatives, and we're starting an important segment, an important series which focuses on mental illness in the teenage community, or teenagers as members of society in general. And in this series we're going to focus on or delve into the different types of mental illnesses that are relevant or prevalent amongst us teenagers, what mental illness means for a teenager, how it affects us as teenagers, and of course end off with a few motivational speakers, a few motivational points and topics to help you get through whatever mental illness you're going through, or if you feel you have mental illness, how to go and seek help and how to deal with this. So I've got a little bit of research here, and we're just gonna, on this episode or this video, just touch on what is mental illness, what is the difference between a mental illness and a mental disorder, and various other things. But let's get right into it. Right, so let's get right into the first topic, which is what is the difference between a mental illness and a mental disorder. Now, a lot of people think that these two things or these two phrases are interlinked and they're one and the same thing, when in actual fact, mental illness, mental disorder, and mental health are three separate entities on their own. So a mental illness, or what are mental illnesses, are pathological conditions of a body part system which result in various causes or reactions and affect your behavior, your thinking, and your mind. That is what a mental illness is. And when you Google the definition of a mental disorder, which is quite close and says a disturbance or derangement that affects the functioning of the body or mind, such as, for example, eating disorder or the abuse of drugs, to disturb the normal physical or mental health of a person or being, are usually quite similar. However, the difference in them both would be that the origin of each one. Mental disorders are usually cases or perhaps situations where a patient or the being is born with the disorder from birth, or the mental defect, as society would like to put it. And mental illness is something that is acquired or happens and is a product of a circumstance or product of tragedy and abuse, tragic circumstances or experiences that you as a person have experienced or lived through. So that is the difference between mental illness and mental disorder. Mental health is the state of your mind and your well-being, both emotionally and mentally. So that is what mental health is, taking care of your well-being emotionally and mentally. Those are the differences between the three. Okay, so you're probably wondering, why am I giving you guys definitions of the three words or phrases you've probably heard before? Well, because the very limited knowledge that majority of people have on this topic really leads to the following thing that we're going to dive into, which is stigma associated with mental health. Stigma being a mark of disgrace as a result of stereotypes, misunderstanding, and judgment placed on another being. Right, so we all know that there's a great and a big stigma around mental health issues, especially around teenagers. People who have per se mental illness or experience an extent of mental illness are considered to be attention seekers, are considered to be rebellious, and considered to be people that are acting out, because mental illness is something that you cannot physically see, and touch, and we humans, makgolwa Thomas, or kgolwa ka go bona, which means we believe what we see, is that we tend to think that because we cannot see the problem, because the person may not physically experience health issues, then mental health cannot be real, and therefore it is made up by the being or the person. So therefore it is important that we, through this series, break down the stigma, break down the stereotype, delve into it, especially in the very cultural diverse society we live in, where also culture plays a big role in how you receive people with mental illness and mental disorders. And then one more thing we're going to dive into is romanticizing and sensationalizing mental health and mental illness. It's a deadly, chronic state, situation or circumstance that can happen to anybody, and romanticizing it or making it seem cool, perhaps something like saying, oh no, I like a person with mood swings, I like a person who is aggressive, or whatever the case may be. It's not something that rather helps the person or gives them confidence, but it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't really delve into the main reason why the person may be that way, and romanticizing it or sensationalizing it in the sense of referring to people with mental illness or mental disorders, or who have a problem with their mental health, as people that are crazy, using words in their negative connotation towards people who suffer from these things. For example, a person who may be going through depression, or maybe is going through anxiety, calling them crazy, or calling a person who is of a certain gender or who does certain things as crazy, or labeling them as a person with mental illness, is really something we as society do common, and we should refrain from it, because we are sensationalizing and romanticizing serious situations. Because you wouldn't romanticize somebody that has a physical illness, such as, for example, cancer, to say or call them any other words that are just terrible and downright mean. So let us refrain from doing that beyond breaking the stigma and breaking the stereotypes associated with this. Right, so that was just a quick, brief understanding of what mental illness is as a whole, as a condition. And soon we'll be diving into, I think, mental illness that definitely affects teenagers, which being clinical depression and anxiety. And we'll be diving into that, what causes it, the root problem, how to identify whether you have it or not, and just speaking to people that have gone through anxiety and depression, how they dealt with it, the stigma they faced by society, and more of all that. But just remember, guys, not to self-diagnose yourself, to get help. It's okay to get help in any form or way you can, in the capacity you have. Try get help. Keeping it inside and isolating yourself, or perhaps dying from the inside, is not an option. You are important, you are worthy, you are a member of society, you are a member of the universe, and we need you on this earth, and therefore any form of keeping you healthy, whether it be mental, physical, is important. So seek help. We need to, as young people ourselves, create platforms where we can talk with each other, where we can exchange ideas, exchange our problems, and exchange our difficulties, because really we are the future, and there is no better way to build each other up and make sure this future is in the right headspace, in the right mindset to conquer and rule this world. Therefore, let's create more platforms. Let's talk about this thing, me and you together, talk to me on my social media platforms. I am there for you guys constantly. Let me know. I will put up confessions, mental illness edition, about the different times you had went through breakdowns, anxiety attacks, depression, even if you had suicidal thoughts. Let's talk about this, then connect as people, because literally nobody has your back like birds of a feather. So we should flock together. And thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I hope this brief understanding of what mental illness is and the different me mentioning the different types of mental illnesses helps you guys through your journey. I know for schooling as students is very tough, going through your matric year or whatever year you're going through, and COVID-19, mental illness is important. So catch us on the next episode where we'll be diving into another mental illness, being anxiety, going into your June exams, going into your cycle tests, how to diagnose anxiety and deal with it. Thank you guys.